All right, using this Reddit tool with AI, you can find literal gold mines in the SMMA space. I'm a dinosaur. I'm like 65 million years old. When I started my agency, there were like three SMMA YouTube videos altogether, and picking my market was me just being like, well, I worked in real estate for a bit, so I guess I'll do that. Now, I managed to scale my agency to consistent 60K plus months, but I already had case studies and everything. You will literally waste years of your life doing the wrong thing if you pick the wrong market. So here's how to not be an idiot and not do that. Now, a couple things I'm going to quickly cover here. How do you know a market is good? That's the first thing. And then we're going to go into how to actually find a hidden gold mine. I have like 900 tabs open. I'm going to get into all of that for you. So how do we know a market is good? We're going to get into market size, saturation, accessibility, and scale in emerging markets. Then we're going to get into this Reddit tool, ChatGPT, literally Google, and the Facebook ad library so that you can validate markets, prove them. There's a guy on YouTube named Steph France. I got this idea from him, the Reddit tool specifically. I wanted to gear this towards SMA, put my own spin on it. Shout out to him. So how to know market is good? Market size. Alex Hormozy, one of the biggest guys in our space. Gym Launch, one of his companies. What do you think the market size for Gym Launch was? I will tell you, 50,000 people. I used to think that if the market wasn't millions of people, I was screwed. Gym Launch had a 50,000 person market and scaled to be worth multiple eight figures in a tiny market. Well, it's not that small, clearly, but it's a small market. Now, the thing with smaller markets is you just have to horizontally scale sooner. What I mean by that is, let's say you're doing outreach to 50,000 people and you're sending cold emails to all of these 50,000 gyms and you just happen to have a list of every single person in a hypothetical world. Once you're done with that list, well, yes, you can recycle the list, but once you're done with that list, you need to start moving into new ways to advertise to the same people. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not able to reach the next level. So you're forced to horizontally scale sooner with smaller markets. You could have a 20,000 person market. You can have a 3,000 person market, literally, and make so much money. One of the guys that I know, 350K per month in a market size of like 2,000 people. 350K per month. Now, biggest player in the space, yes. Literally like started the whole industry, yes. But you don't need a market of 5 million people for this to work. You just unlock a new level of scale if that's possible. Competition is also going to be higher, so on and so forth. Saturation. How much does saturation really matter? Well, it does and it doesn't. One of the great things about saturated markets is that you know it's proven to work and that there's an opportunity to make money there. So all you have to do is be better than everybody else. If there are zero competitors in a marketplace, it can actually be a red flag. And ideally you want to find, and I'll show you some niches in a little bit, markets that are not really discussed commonly almost at all, but also markets that they have some competition, there's some proof of concept there, they're large enough that you can compete in, but not have to worry about everyone and their mom being a competitor in this market. So saturation, it's a spectrum, right? So 0 saturation, 100% saturation, you want to be somewhere in the middle rather than being in a market where everybody's in there or being in a market where literally nobody's in there. Oftentimes markets get assessed by people. You may think you have some genius idea, but you're not the first person to think of almost any business idea that you have, almost. And oftentimes that's even the case for these massive companies that seem like some genius play. Multiple people usually compete in the beginning, even if it's only 20 people in the world. The best ideas still start with competition in a lot of cases, not every single case, but in a lot of cases, unless you're creating a new market or something like that, which is generally a much more advanced thing for you to do. So you want to be in a market where there's some competition, right? You can play around with ideas where there's literally zero, but you have to validate the entire idea yourself. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. But it's going to take some work for you to do something like that. Accessibility and scale. How easy is it for you to reach to contact the people if you're doing cold outreach or if you're doing ads? How accessible are these people, whether it be via targeting options on Facebook, whether it be via outreach, right? So, and where are these people going to be, right? Are they accessible at all? How accessible are they? Accessibility is also a spectrum. So with how accessible they are, it'll determine how quickly and how easily you can scale. So, for example, real estate agents are so ridiculously accessible, it's insane. Their full name, email, and phone number is listed on like 5 different websites online. On the flip side, some people who work at some companies, they're just an employee. They're not going to post their phone number online, like CMOs, for example. They're not going to post their phone number online unless they're a company that provides fractional CMOs or something like this. But CMOs themselves, generally speaking, they're not just going to put their phone number online because, like, well, I don't want my phone number online, right? So that's something that you want to keep in mind. How accessible is this person, and how accessible is their information, right? And phone number is a big part of that. Another bonus is, do these people have money? If they have a lot of money, that's why a lot of people will target things like doctors, because they have a lot of money. A lot of people want to target real estate agents because they think real estate agents have a lot of money. The reality is that they don't, and the average real estate agent does like 1 or 2 deals a year, and they're part-time. So most real estate agents don't actually have much money. Now, this is where we're going to want to get into a smaller segment of the market. Let's say the top 10% of real estate agents, or a certain type of doctor or surgeon, right? That's where we can specialize. Be a unique solution to this specific type of person. Our market size goes down, our specificity goes up, but how many people are competing just for that one avatar? That's a question that you can ask. So now moving on to emerging markets. What I mean by emerging markets are growing markets, markets that are becoming more and more of a thing. I'm going to show you that in a minute. You can use Google Trends, but you can also just use your intuition. Like, for example, a guy that I met, when he started drop shipping, when he was in college, and he was like, oh, well, I see a bunch of people with AirPods on campus, so I might as well try to find a really good set of wireless earbuds and then advertise those. That's intuition. That's something from within giving you some kind of instinct in a way, right? So now that you know this general information on how much does market size matter, now you can go with these really small markets, bigger the better. Saturation, you know that you ideally want some amount of competition, not too much, not too little. If too little, then you're going to have to do some proving yourself and do some I guess, higher skill level tinkering or messing around, chemistry, whatever you want to call it. Accessibility and scale, you want to be able to reach out to these people, scrape lists, advertise to them, etc. Helps if they have money. And then one of the great things is that you can do is go into a market that's emerging. So finding these hidden gold mines. So this Reddit tool from before, here's the URL that you can visit. You can just type in a subreddit here, and it will give you a link of the most common or most similar subreddits. So if we type in doctors, we can just look through all of these and find, well, what ones are similar, right? There's neurology. Okay, well, now we can think and go, neurology is like it's a segment, a sub-niche of medicine. And there are neurologists, and there are neurology practices. So now we can go, okay, well, people will do an agency for doctors, but is there an agency for neurologists? I don't know, maybe not. We can Google that. But where I'm going with this is where we'll want to assess the market size, right? So this is where we go through the checklist, right? So jumping back here, we'll look into the market size. How saturated is it? I'll show you ways that we can get into that. Accessibility and scale. If there are practices, you'll be able to find phone numbers from Google, etc. Is it an emerging market? Well, we can look at that with Google Trends. But where I'm going from here, rather, with this is one way that you can find a bunch of different types of doctors, like orthopedic surgeons, for example. That was one of the things I found just through going through some of this here. I don't remember if it was this one or if it was another one that I was searching on, but orthopedic surgeons, that's another one of them, right? So then what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I was like, okay, well, how many orthopedic practices are there in the US? You can Google this. I usually do as well, but ChatGPT just searches all the sites for you and does it faster, so you might as well do that. It told me how many orthopedic surgeons there are, but I was like, okay, but how many practices are there? It said, well, there are about 5,000, over 5,000 orthopedic practices. It's like, okay, well, that's not bad, but that's still pretty low. Like, if you're doing mass email and you're sending like 500 emails a day. That's like 10 business days worth of mass cold emails, right? So that's not that many. You're going to need to get into the horizontal scaling phases for that agency very quickly, very early, and probably earlier and quicker than you want to do. And probably earlier and quicker than you're prepared to do if you haven't been in the agency game for a long time, and if you haven't developed that skill of moving fast. I know everybody wants to move fast. Moving fast is a skill, so it's something you need to constantly focus on and constantly improve, learn from things, and try to just shorten the amount of time it takes for you to go from theory to action to result, and then assessing that data, and then making the next, taking the next action. Another one I looked into is therapy practices, and we can get into that in just a second. But yeah, there's orthopedics there. And I think there was another, somewhere here it was like saying like mental health or psychiatry, that's what it was. And it made me think, oh, well, this is where intuition comes into play a little bit. It's like, oh, well, mental health concerns have been massively on the rise over the past, 5 to 10 years kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, then that makes me think, well, we can look into psychiatrists, but wait, we can also look into therapists, right? So now we're getting into, we just started with doctors, and now we're looking into all these different areas of personal health, right? Dietitians is something that just came to mind, right? But if we look at the charts for therapy from 2004 to present, they are very much on the rise, and this indicates demand in the marketplace. So past 5 years, same thing, it's still on an upward trend, and it's on a healthy upward trend, higher lows, higher highs. If you invest in the stock market, you know that's a good positive sign of something, of a healthy market that is growing with stability and not just going to fall apart overnight and, oh, there goes your entire business because nobody wants therapy anymore. This is showing it shows strength in this whole idea anyway. So what we can do from here, I'm looking at, can therapists run ads? That was a question that I had. And interestingly enough, Google Ads for Therapists, mental health marketing agency. It's like, okay, well, this is demand now, right? This shows that therapists have demand for running ads. Great. We want there to be this just demand in general, because that indicates that this is a market that we can step into. So I go, okay, how many therapy practices in the US? So about 39,000 physical therapy clinics operating in the United States. Physical therapy, I said, no, I meant mental health, cognitive behavioral therapy, etc. And it was saying, where did it say this here? 25 to 30,000 mental health clinics and group practices. Yeah, I also looked it up for psychiatrists. So for psychiatrists, 24,000 psychiatric clinic businesses operating in the US as of 2022. That's a pretty fair market size. Like, you can do a lot of damage, you can make a lot of money, you can help a lot of people, so on and so forth, in the psychiatric leg of SMMA. So these are just some examples. There are a ton of therapists, and so many of them are independent and not working for a company. Another thing you can do just to find, aside from, I was saying in my chart here, like, you can literally just use Google to figure some of this stuff out. Like, I would just search like different types of doctors, like the silliest Google search you've probably ever seen. Different types of doctors, and I mean, they're like, look, allergists, for example, radiologists, anesthesiology, et cetera, right? That's where you see people looking into, like, people will target plastic surgeons or, med spas. That's why people do med spas. There are these very specific little things, markets within this market of doctors that you can step into and specialize within. Long story short, people started just running ad agencies and social media marketing agencies for all businesses. Then that became too saturated, so people started making social media marketing agencies for real estate agents and for dentists and for doctors. Okay, well, maybe now some of these are becoming a little bit saturated, or people would do it for e-commerce. Well, maybe that's becoming saturated, so now people will start specializing within the specialization of e-commerce, and they'll start working with, specifically pet food e-commerce brands. I'm just giving you a random example that's not proven or anything like that. But you get what I'm saying. This is how it works. So when a certain area is too saturated, you can go one layer of specialization deeper and then explore an entirely new area. You just want to make sure that the market size is big enough, just in general, right? So here's another thing that I looked up: how many orthopedic practices in the US? So I actually did Google this before going to ChatGPT. And here's a little report that I found. So 23,000 orthopedic practices. There you go. You can be the orthopedic practice marketer guy, right? Or you can build an agency, doesn't have to be with your face on it, where that's what you're doing. I looked up can therapists run ad, how many psychiatrists. Now, another thing that you can do is I looked up psychiatry in the Facebook ad library. And all of a sudden, we're seeing a whole bunch of ads, a whole bunch of lead generation ads. For example, Dr. Pittman, link to schedule your appointment, right? Everyone deals with stress in their own way. Get cutting edge medical care at 4 convenient locations. This is an actual location. Did you know that 6 million men in the US suffer from depression every year, right? So there are a lot of these things, and this shows you that there's a good opportunity for running ads. Book your free consult today. So now you could target psychiatric clinics, and you can say, hey, I can run ads for you, and the types of ads you can run, the lead magnet can be free consults. Cool. This shows that there's some proof of concept here, right? Or like the therapist Google search, which right here, right? Just can therapists run ads, because I wanted to make sure, because there are some very specific rules surrounding what they can and cannot do, so on and so forth. But again, mental health marketing agencies, right? Google ads for therapists. These are great indicators. So, bit of a random sporadic video, but this is how you can find markets that are not oversaturated, where the people have money. You want to be able to reach them, right? You want to have a sufficiently sized market. Ideally, you're in an emerging market, and here are some ways that you can get ideas and do your research to find and prove a market, doing your outreach, making offers, so on and so forth. That's going to fully validate an idea that you don't already see absolute proof in, such as the therapist example there. But that really is how you can find serious SMMA gold mines. Dive into that, enjoy. Now, if you want me to personally help you grow your agency, there is a sales call link in the description where you can talk to me, but that's totally up to you. Otherwise, you can click whatever's popping up on screen here, and I'll see you there.